Morrowind is the best open-world RPG I have ever played. Yes, I'm jumping the gun a bit here, I fucking love this game. Morrowind is a game I have a lot of love for. I played it when I was really young, but I never actually got into the game until recently, and it has managed to be my favorite 3D open-world game ever made. The Elder Scrolls franchise is truly something magical, being able to immerse yourself in a unique fantasy setting. It's sure to bring in an audience. Each game in the franchise has been critically and commercially acclaimed ever since its debut with Arena back in 1994. Then Daggerfall came out in 1996 and showed the world what an open-world RPG could be like. The spin-off Elder Scrolls games Battlespire and Redguard were not received as well despite being relatively solid titles. So Todd Howard— oh god, Todd. No, not Todd, please.
Who's laughing now?
No!
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court of—
all of this just works. It's not, I'm not
Yes,
kidding.
I was in the chess club.
generator, and again, it just works. And again, it just works. And again, it just works. And again, it just works.
But yes, Todd Howard and the team got to work on what would be the next game in the franchise. Morrowind was released back in 2002 on Microsoft Windows and the original Xbox in 2003. Which, I want to add something. Morrowind running on the original Xbox is a fucking technological marvel. Morrowind is one of those games you can lose yourself in for many hours or somewhat days at a time, exploring this place and that place, fighting this and that or whatever the fuck that thing is, and completely immersing yourself in an alien, unique fantasy setting that will send you into an imaginative trance. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be playing the PC version with the port OpenMW because it adds things like increased view distance and modding abilities. We won't be using any mods that increase our speed or decrease hit chance because Morrowind is not Morrowind without a hit chance mechanic. If you remove the hit chance, you remove the progression the game puts you through and turn it into a better or worse game than Oblivion. And guess what? Oblivion is the only game in the series that I don't like as the others. So all you're gonna get is videos on Morrowind and Skyrim, really. Maybe I'll do a video on Oblivion, but I'm not sure. Well, that is to be decided. This video was originally gonna be a Dishonored video, but I felt like returning to Morrowind since I've been wanting to make a video on it for some time. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, shall we?
Wait, hold the phone, Ron. You haven't gone on your little tangent yet. Why are you using Open Morrowind? Why do you like this game so much? Are you gonna review Oblivion at all?
Alright. We're playing on OpenMW because it has fast load times and an FOV slider, along with options the base game doesn't have to increase the quality of your experience and make it into something that isn't locked in a 4:3 aspect ratio, and something that better appeals to the modern audience. Also, the rules are not to look up anything on the internet. I'm gonna play this game like it was meant to be played in 2003, without YouTube or Google or anything like that. But I will have some help with the strategy guide, The Morrowind Prophecies. This will be my textbook for the journey because because Morrowind is not a game you can shut your brain off to play like its future installments. You have to actually read shit in this game, like stat values, because not everything is a simplified perk system implemented to attract a wide audience. Because RPGs back then were meant for thinking people, because they were meant for nerds who spent their free time as basement dwellers who never get laid and need something to pass the time with while they spend time not applying for a job. They were never games in which the casual gamer could normally play. Morrowind is meant for people who like a bit of complexity to their games. Another reason why I like this game so much is that my mom and dad used to play this game before I was born. In fact, my mom played it while she was pregnant with me, so maybe that's why things seem so familiar. So if my parents are playing Morrowind, I must have had a good childhood, right? Well, you would be wrong. So without further ado, let's get into the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. So, when you create your character, you can pick from many different races. I'm going to talk about a few to hopefully get you up to speed on what some of them do. If you want to play a battle class, use swords, axes, blunt weapons, and wear heavy armor, you might want to pick something like a Nord, Imperial, or an Orc, or a Redguard. These guys get bonuses to melee attributes that will help you level your skills in the long run. If you want to play a mage, I'd suggest you play as a Dark Elf / Dunmer, a Breton, or a High Elf / Altmer. These guys get bonuses to magic in their own respects. Breton have bonuses in Restoration and Alteration. The High Elf starts with a larger magical pool as well as getting bonuses in all magicka stats, but they suffer a weakness to every type of magic. Breton, however, have a smaller magical pool and intelligence boost, but are more resistant to magic and account for this. Dunmer are a kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to classes though, so if you want to use a lot of skills or get racial bonuses in the game world, I'd pick Dunmer. For stealth builds, I suggest either a Wood Elf or the Khajiit. Wood Elves are better at ranged attacks but suffer a movement speed loss due to them being midgets, but the Khajiit is the beast race. While it is better at stealth and can move faster, you can't wear closed masked headgear or wear shoes, because back before Bethesda was too lazy to animate proper beast race movements in Skyrim, beast races had a really cool trade-offs for them not being able to wear shoes or helmets. For example, Argonians can breathe underwater and have resistance to most kinds of diseases, but they have an extreme distaste for magic attacks. You can also jump higher as an Argonian, but guess what? The Khajiit gets a bonus to hand-to-hand combat due to them having sharp claws. But also prepare to be discriminated against because the people in Morrowind are fucking racist as shit. The native people, the Dunmer, are very nationalistic and they do not like foreigners most of the time. They often opt to call strangers outlanders. That's why Dunmer gets the best racial bonuses, because they don't fucking call you a cracker every time you walk past them. But whichever race you choose, it won't impact much of the game in a big significant way, but your class will, because see, the devs knew people were going to play their game more than once since it's an RPG. They made you choose what content you wanted to play with first instead of letting you play with it all at once. What I mean by this is that you can only join one major faction and only use certain abilities your skills are proficient in. So for example, I picked a sort of spell sword class. So your major skills are the skills you'll be using the most. Since I want to be a magic user that can set people on fire, heal in the middle of battle, or levitate to skip parts of the world that are tedious to travel on, I picked destruction, restoration, and alteration as my 3 major magicka skills. For my 2 combat skills, I picked medium armor and long blades, so I can use long swords and wear decent armor without too much movement loss. But for my minor skills, I picked axe, which is my second melee skill, speechcraft, because sometimes the best way to do things is to talk your way out of shit, and heavy armor in case I want to use some of the heavier armor sets that look fucking cool as hell, like Daedric armor or ebony armor. However, 2 minor skills everyone has to pick, which are alchemy and enchant, because they are so useful for every single class. They are just too damn good to deny. For example, alchemy scales off of intelligence, and potion effects can stack to increase stats per temporary amount of time. Also, there is a fortify attribute effect that increases your intelligence temporarily. Stacking fortify intelligence effects and the alchemy scales off intelligence? I wonder what this could mean. Oh, nothing much, just buying tons of ingredients to make Fortify Intelligence potions so you can keep brewing them and drinking them to make even more powerful Fortify Intelligence potions that you keep chugging and chugging to skyrocket your intelligence into the fucking stratosphere. During this time, you can make potions that restore your health or stamina so much and for so long you're practically invincible during the entire duration of a combat session. Also, the more potent a potion is, the more it sells for at vendors. So you can have a stack of 27 potions of Restore Fatigue that you can theoretically buy out every vendor in the game before you sell even a dozen of them. But it's not like the game tells you can do this stuff. No, you'll have to figure it out on your own, or just look it up. These kinds of exploits aren't just laying out in the open because they weren't meant to be there in the first place! Star signs just give you bonuses to certain stats or flat values. You also gain magical abilities through some of them too, but it's really not that big of a deal. Just pick one that strikes your fancy, they don't really matter that much. Personally, I think the game starts you out moving way too slow, so I picked the Steed as my star sign. It gives you a bonus 25 points into your speed stat, and that may not sound like a lot, but it makes a pretty marginal difference this early on. But it doesn't matter whether or not you do what I do and break the game by selling potions. Do what you want, it's that kind of game. So when you create your class, you have to stick with those skills you picked, otherwise you'll have a bad time. So you need to carefully plan what type of fighter you're gonna be, or otherwise you'll have to do a shitload of grinding. And grinding in Morrowind is unnecessarily long, so I'd create a class that's just right for your playstyle. If a character isn't to your liking, the new game option is right there in the menu. The pause menu at that, in case you're not satisfied with your current build. There's also trainers that only cost money, so hey, maybe the alchemy exploit is a good idea for a reason. It allows you to level up faster because all the good shit is at the end anyways. Speaking of combat, I do want to take the time to talk about dice rolls, another mechanic Morrowind has built into its systems. You see, every time you use one of your skills, there's a chance of whether or not it'll work outside of flat values like armor class. Hit chance is the random value of whether or not your hit will connect during combat or if the spell will even cast, because the hit/casting rate is equal to your skill level. So you have the skill level in Longblade 50, it's a 50-50 value of whether or not every time I swing my sword it'll hit my enemy. But that's not the only thing I'll have to manage. Your stamina determines that chance to hit as well. If your stamina is at full, that value stays static, but if your stamina is lowered, it decreases slightly per point of stamina taken away. So make sure you learn how to manage that fucking green bar in the bottom left corner of your screen. Hey, does this stamina system remind you of anything?
Rowan, we keep telling you not to talk about Dark Souls.
Oh my god, for the last time. This game came out before Dark Souls. The other bars, red for health and blue for magicka points, scale with your level. Endurance increases stamina and health, while intelligence increases magicka. The third bar in your inventory, which is your encumbrance, which is a value that scales with your strength on how much shit you can carry around in your fat sack of loot on your back. But your encumbrance doesn't just determine if you can move with all that stuff, it also determines your speed and jump height. Because I doubt you can run top speed while carrying a big ass sack full of swords, soul gems, keys, books, scrolls, alchemy ingredients, or whatever is weighing you down, while on top of that wearing heavy armor, which probably weighs something. So the more encumbered you are, the slower you'll move. Moving slow by default is irritating, but moving even slower than that can cause a brain hemorrhage. But if you're over encumbered, you won't be able to move at all. You'll just be stuck in position. Since items in Morrowind don't despawn, you can just use a mark spell near your dropped loot in case you have to drop some things and return for them later. Problem solved. But you'll have to learn Mark and Recall and have a high enough skill in Mysticism or use enchanted items like rings or amulets. I'm a magic user by default in these types of games, except for Dark Souls, because melee combat can be a bit boring. Anyways, let me explain what I like about these systems. First of all, the character creation allows for the player to create a character distinct to them and their playstyles, because you can mix and match certain skills to get different effects for your build. Why is this system superior to Skyrim? Because it's not just a menu of perks that give you bonuses to certain abilities when you use them. Morrowind has skill-based leveling, wherein you have to level your skills by using them more. This allows you to get more involved with your playstyle and make the experience that much more fun for you. First of all, I think the chance for a skill to succeed is a wonderful mechanic, because it forces you to stick to your guns, or swords in this case. For example, if you don't pick marksman as one of your major or minor skills, you can still use bows or throwing weapons, you just need to have the right amount of money to spend on trainers to level up those corresponding skills. So in case you'd rather use blunt weapons over axes, you can just collect the money to train in blunt weapons to use them. You only need a melee skill of 50 to reliably use it in combat anyways. Secondly, it allows the player to create a unique character for every playthrough, because certain types of characters work better for different factions in the game. Like if you pick a knight class, you might want to join House Redoran, since those are combat-focused missions. If you're a mage, House Telvanni would be a superior choice over House Halalu, which is a stealth-orientated faction. But what about the magic skills? Oh, you sweet summer child. Magicka is so fucking OP in this game, it makes Skyrim's magic look tame in comparison. Every skill in magic has such a wide variety of uses that it's hard-pressed not to find a use for something, no matter your class. For example, Destruction gives you the ability to set people on fire, freeze, and electrocute the shit out of people. Destruction also has skills in poisoning targets to drain health or draining other attributes like armor or weapon durability. So in case you're not keen on using swords or melee weapons or even marksman weapons, Destruction might be the way to go. Restoration is pretty self-explanatory. Not only can you restore health and fatigue with certain spells, but you can restore lost attributes, since some enemies like to drain your precious strength stat over and over again and over-encumber you, which is bullshit! But restoration also gives you fortification spells, which you can use to fortify your speed and run at ridiculously fast speeds if you have a skill high enough to do so. Alteration allows you to do stuff like levitating or jumping super high. Alteration also allows you to cast shield spells or turn you into Jesus with water walking. Mysticism allows you to use shit like telekinesis or leaving behind a marking so you can recall to that same spot in case you need to return to a specific place on a map that fast traveling or intervention spells won't get you. Illusion allows you to go invisible or make people go blind so that they can't see you attacking them or stealing shit from right in front of their face. You can also use spells like Charm or Calm to make enemies stop attacking you or like you more. Conjuration allows you to summon entities to fight for you, or summon things like armor or super powerful weapons to aid you in combat. I actually really like how each school of magic fits towards this style of play. For example, melee fighters may like restoration since it can heal you during battles, or how primarily magic builds use alteration and destruction, stealth builds using illusion, etc. I love playing necromancers in Morrowind. Conjuration builds are so fucking cool because summoning an entire set of Daedric armor while you watch your skeleton minions risk their lives. Wait, magic in Morrowind is so overpowered that it's retarded, especially if you have one of those fortify intelligence potions you made during your alchemy exploit sessions. You exploited the alchemy, right? Right? You can use that to boost your magicka pool indefinitely and have an absurd amount of magicka. God, this game is so fucking broken. Morrowind has a gameplay loop that may feel a little familiar to you. You talk to somebody, get a quest or objective, go out and fight something, loot, and return the quest. It's a formula that has stuck with Elder Scrolls and modern Fallout ever since its inception. It's just not as dumbed down as, say, Skyrim or Fallout 4, where all you do is get quests and follow objective markers until the job is done. Unlike those games, Morrowind doesn't hold your hand. The game lets you figure things out on your own. In Morrowind, there are no quest markers or spoken quest dialogue. Oh yeah, you actually have to read and follow directions? What? I know, fucking crazy, right? Now for those of you with short attention spans, oh wait, they clicked off already, probably to go watch TikTok or something, yeah, whatever. Still, I'm gonna drive the point home. To those with short attention spans, this system may not be great, but I'm gonna prove why text dialogue is so much better than voice dialogue. For one, it forces the player to become invested in everything the characters are doing and telling you to do. It's not just a static experience where you can shut your brain off and kill some time. No, you're actively thinking about how to solve situations to progress forward in the game. Also, having it be all text-based means spending less money on voice actors, because that's what impresses me about RPGs with spoken dialogue, is how much there is of it. And that actors actually have to come in and voice every line of dialogue for every possible outcome. Everyone remembers that part in Oblivion.
The armor. Good day. I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again.
Fucking roll!
But also, what's written isn't just practical in terms of design, it's actually a good read if you have the patience to sit through it all. I get that high school English ruined reading for you by forcing you to read Touching Spiritbearer or fucking Maniac McGee or some other bullshit like The Outsiders. Look, Morrowind is nothing like that stuff. It's a surprisingly deep fantasy world in which you are just some poor schmuck hit with a bit of good and bad lucks. But it's not so bad because your journal automatically updates itself with the directions you were given. So if you ever get confused, you can just open up your journal and read the directions over again. However, conversations in Morrowind do not require any speech checks or anything like that, which is strange considering this is an RPG. But most of the time when you have actual dialogue options, they don't really have many consequences, and the ones you do pick that do have consequences are just wrong answers, forcing you to either reload a save or kill the character in question if they decide to attack you or tell you to fuck off. It's basically trial and error. But most of the time, speech revolves around the NPC's disposition. You see, most NPCs will just tell you the same thing about everything, but some hold value and they will hold certain information or refuse to do things unless they have a high enough disposition. If you have a high enough speechcraft skills, you can persuade, intimidate, admire, or taunt people. If you can't do any of that, well, make sure that you have a fat stack of cash, because you will be doing a lot of bribing in this game. You can bribe from 10 gold upwards to 1,000. Usually I use 10s or 100s because 1,000s just seem overkill, but unless you're super powerful or high leveled, I doubt intimidation or anything else will even work. And if it does work, it doesn't do nearly as much as just giving them money does. Or if you just need something from somebody but they won't give it to you, you can always just taunt them repeatedly until they get pissed off and start attacking you. Because in Morrowind, whoever attacks first is clearly in the wrong and you have the right to defend yourself, even if you initiated the conflict. But a lot of the time, talking to people is just getting that one piece of the puzzle or item to complete a quest. So in a sense, dialogue in itself is a puzzle. I do want to get sidetracked to talk about some of the fucked up things you will get to read about in Morrowind. There's this one Telvanni wizard who took pieces of his own flesh and grew them in jars until they were full-grown adult women. These women act as his daughters, wives, and concubines. Now I can't tell if I should be disgusted or turned on by this.
You're fucking sick!
Another piece of the lore I admired was how VIVEC, the wannabe god of the Tribunal, casted a meteor onto the island of Vardenfell, which could destroy all of Tamriel unless Vardenfell surrendered its subservience to the Tribunal temples. When VIVEC realized this fame shit wasn't that great, he tried to send the meteor back, but it ended up just pulling it closer to VIVEC City. And now he has to stay alive just to hold the meteor up in the air. But the funny part is that the Ordinators hollowed out the meteor from the inside and held it as the Ministry of Truth. But enough about the lore of the land. How about we discuss the good and poorly designed quests of Morrowind? Well, good thing most of the quests are designed pretty well, but most of the time you're sent to one of the game's many copy and pasted dungeons to go and kill somebody or retrieve something. In fact, the main quest is barely even a show here, because right at the start of the game, the guy you're sent to talk to tells you straight up to go away and do your own thing before starting the main quest. There are multiple joinable factions in Morrowind. First, there's the guilds, which are sort of like mini versions of the Great Houses. There's things like the Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, and the Thieves Guild. First of all, the Fighters Guild is good for all things combat. You won't get paid a whole lot, which is to be expected. Same with the Mages/Thieves Guild, because these guilds are part of the Imperial Legion. Now don't get these guys confused with the Imperial Cult, because the Imperial Cult and the Imperial Guilds are completely different. But the main ones are the Fighters Guild and Mages Guild. The Thieves Guild is a little tricky to find. I know exactly where it is, it's in Balmore at the Southwall Corner Club, but since I played a spellsword type character, I specialized in everything that wasn't thievery or stealth orientated. Because stealth in Elder Scrolls games has never been that good. If the Thalmor Embassy quest in Skyrim is anything to go off of, then I don't know what is. But if you have a stealth skill high enough, the Thieves Guild might just work fine for you. But the guild questlines aren't all that remarkable even in their own respects. Nothing really surprised me or threw me off. It was kind of what I expected in terms of quality. If you like killing shit and looting, the Fighters Guild might work for you. But if you like using magic and shit, the Mages Guild might be the way to go. But do be warned, joining this faction will lock you out of the House Telvanni questline. But before we get into the Great Houses, there's two religious factions to join. I didn't join either, but I thought I'd point out that they exist. There's the Imperial Cult and the Tribunal Temple. If you join the Imperial Cult, the more the Tribunal Temple will dislike you, but if you join the Temple, the Imperial Cult and Legion will dislike you more. Because when you do quests for factions, sometimes you're directly interfering with the corresponding faction's business. You can imagine that would fuck things up a little bit. Alright, now the bread and butter of Morrowind. The Great Houses are the real good shit of the game. Now, since I joined House Telvanni instead of the Mages Guild, I get to do magic-orientated quests and learn new spells and powers. Fuck yeah. These quests are more exciting than the bullshit Mages Guild quests, but you are still a glorified errand boy. But you do get to fetch cool shit and stop slave rebellions and kill all kinds of shit. In fact, the Telvanni Council Hall is so graphically intensive it made the Xbox back in the day nearly shit itself over its visual prowess. Now, the other two houses are like the Fighters Guild and Thieves Guild, for manly men! Redoran is for fighters, Halalu is for thieves and stealth characters. Now, I haven't joined any of these houses yet because I'm lazy and I'm not creating multiple characters for this video. If you want to know more about these factions, then you can just fucking play the game yourself if you haven't already. Morrowind has got to be one of the most unique and visually striking settings in any video game. Unlike most fantasy settings, which have dragons, knights, swords, and magic, Morrowind has weird jellyfish things, giant bugs that people use as a taxi service, wizards who grow their homes out of the ground and only use levitation to get around, along with a whole heap of other things. Morrowind is stylistically fantastic. While the graphics are archaic and shitty, I can enjoy the aesthetic of everything going on here. I love how the island of Vardenfell has its own regions, with the land growing more fertile and warm towards the south, unlike the rocky northern regions of the land. Vardenfell is not very large in terms of scale either. The game is only 16 kilometers total, which is about half of Skyrim's world, and that's not even 1/100th of Daggerfall's world. But Vardenfell doesn't seem small. That's because there isn't a spot of wasted space in the world. Everything you see and do is unique in its own senses. The entire island is bursting with life and things to do, places to explore, and puzzles to solve. This world feels larger than it is thanks to a few key factors, like slow movement speed, low view distance, and multiple dungeons and cities scattered densely throughout. However, some parts of the design do falter, like VIVEC City. I love the idea of VIVEC City, a bunch of large canton-like buildings filled with apartments and shops, but in execution it just does not work, because the cantons feel way smaller than their size entails. You only have a few floors with just a few convoluted hallways. Of course you will have VIVEC memorized by late game, but early game, this city fucking sucks the fattest of veiny hairy ballsacks, because every layout in each canton is practically the same with maybe one or two exceptions. So everything will seem a little familiar and it will be easy to get super lost and hard to figure things out. I would be more forgiving if VIVEC cantons had like 3 floors like they do, but instead of having tight hallways, there's multiple large rooms filled with apartments and shop. And the higher up you go, the more rich things get with the mansions at the top like they are. Maybe this couldn't have been done for performance reasons, in which case, why the fuck was VIVEC City even made in the first place? Also, every canton feels entirely too similar for another reason. Take a guess? Can you just take a guess? They have no visual fucking differences on the outside! Also, dungeons and caves. They suck too. Some of them are fine and actually pretty cool, like the Urshulaku burial caverns, but everything else is fucking boring! Rarely do these dungeons have any sense of actual good loot on them. Most of the time it's just gemstones and a few underpowered weapons. However, the dungeons are not the main focus in Morrowind. It's the steady progression your character goes into becoming a living, breathing god. Even if the world around you is interesting, it does fall short in a few areas. But by God, is Morrowind's world detailed up the wazoo. Building interiors are scattered with props and NPCs. You can pick up almost any object in the game and set it down somewhere else, permanently. Objects aren't physics-based either, which means you can have entire rooms filled with your gear instead of shoving it all into a disorganized chest like in Skyrim or Oblivion. Take my treasure rooms in Morrowind versus my treasure chests in Skyrim. One looks fucking awesome, and the other is fucking lame. However, I do wish you could hang certain objects up on the walls in the game. I just want to have Sunder and Keening sitting on my wall next to Wraithguard. Maybe there is a mod for that, but whatever. Since the cities and towns are so detailed, a lot of the later dungeons lack the detail of the earlier counterparts and end up feeling very flat and just plain empty. Like, I kept thinking I was stuck in the back rooms during a few quests in these Dunmer strongholds. All in all, Morrowind has a superior world to Oblivion and Skyrim just because of how densely packed with content it is. It's detailed, lore-rich, and fun as fuck to explore on your own time. I'll keep returning to Morrowind just to explore its vast landscapes every year. Jeremy Soule composed the soundtrack for Morrowind, and it's fucking brilliant. It's just too bad that there are only 2 types of tracks in the game, exploration and combat music. During my playthrough, I turned the music way down so I could barely hear it because this shit... Despite being an amazing song, does wear on you after some time, but the soundtrack doesn't really impress me as much as the raw atmosphere of the game. Despite there being little to no environmental sounds out in the wild outside of storms, during thunderstorms the rain is inescapable even under obstructions. It's wrong! But I do love the sounds of Dwemer ruins and the ash storms which blow through Vardenfell. But what really gets annoying when the combat music plays, it disrupts the exploration tracks in such a jarring way it's almost immersion breaking. But it's a hell of a lot more annoying than anything else. One of the few notable tracks for me was this one. And also this one. Yeah, this music is pretty good, but honestly the game is much better without it, or with your own music in the background. In fact, most of the music you hear in the background of this video is from Dark Souls and Metroid. The soundtrack for Morrowind just isn't that great. It's no Skyrim combat music. Remember that this is a Bethesda game we're playing here, so copious amounts of bugs or game-breaking glitches will show up. Not only that, but sometimes the amount of enemies you encounter in the wild is just straight up annoying. Not because the enemies are particularly challenging, well, I mean, that's exactly the fucking problem. Once you reach a certain point in the game, every enemy becomes insanely easy to kill. Enemies have easily exploitable behaviors and patterns that can be juked if you know what you're doing. And for some goddamn reason, every enemy within a 100-yard radius will notice you and start chasing after you, even if you can one-shot entire fucking groups of them with the fucking fireball! Especially the fucking cliff racers. Yep, I might be jumping the gun a bit here on this one. Fuck these guys. Cliff racers are everywhere. They make annoying ass sounds. And if you try to run away from them, they will follow you and sometimes attract more cliff racers. This can get to a point where you have 10 or 15 fucking cliff racers trying to shove their pointy tails up your asshole.
Go fuck yourself, you dumb fucking cunt.
What's funny is that there weren't meant to be this many cliff racers in the game. They were meant to be an aerial enemy that you only encountered in high up regions of the game, especially once you get the levitate spell, but Bethesda fucked something up in the numbers, and now they spawn much closer to the ground than they should, and it ends up getting in the fucking way. Oh man, these guys, the Dark Brotherhood assassins, they will not stop coming after you. Every time I try to sleep somewhere, these motherfuckers will show up and try to murder me. In late game, they come in pairs and sometimes groups of 3, and they have paralyzing daggers.
Bitch! Bitch!
And that's not it. Sometimes you have to do escort missions that are occasionally mandatory. What this means is you have to deal with wonky ass AI pathing and trying to keep these slow motherfuckers alive from the annoying ass of wildlife like the goddamn cliff racers. Also, sometimes directions for quests can be downright wrong or broken, and it forces you to either look it out or look it up in the strategy guide or online. Another thing is, sometimes NPCs will get stuck in one position and not being able to move despite walking. Also, the journal in this game, dear lord, is it the most worthless and confusing piece of shit I've ever seen posed as a journal system. Navigating this thing is such a pain in the ass that it will give you hemorrhoids. But these small gripes are very much small, because the Morrowind experience itself is so enchanting in the first place, I can look past these minor flaws because the game is just this damn good. When the game starts, you awake on board of a ship. You're a prisoner being taken from the Imperial City's prison from the province of Cyrodiil. After being released to Morrowind, you are set out on a journey to join the Blades and meet a man named Caius Cassides. Caius is a Blades member who was assigned to Vardenfell because he couldn't control his cocaine addiction. Caius sets you off on a journey to do a few things before sending you to meet some informants from VIVEC City, the capital of Vardenfell. The informants talk to you about the Sixth House and the Nerevarine cult. You're told about a man named Indoril Nerevar, a demigod who joined with the Sixth House after acquiring Gagranak's tools. VIVEC, Almlexia, and Sothasil of the Tribunal killed Nerevar and took over the province of Morrowind. Why was Nerevar killed? Because he was an associate with a man named DAGOTHWAVE, and Lord Dagoth wants to use the heart of Lorcan and Akulakan to destroy Morrowind and bring blight and disease upon Tamriel. During the main quest, we learn that the Emperor Uriel Septim released you from prison because he believed that you may be the reincarnation of Lord Indoril Nerevar. Caius instructs you to fulfill the Nerevarine prophecies, so you join the Ashlander tribes and fulfill the 7 trials. Your first trial details your star sign, so it basically does itself. The second trial is when you're sent off to a Sixth House base, and after killing Dagoth Garez, you are infected with the divine disease known as Corpus. After we visit the incest lord Divaith Fear, he helps you get rid of Corpus disease. Well, you aren't actually cured, you just stop all symptoms of the disease and completely halt the aging process, making you technically immortal. After doing this, the Ashlanders start to see how things are adding up on you being the reincarnation of Indoril Nerevar. The wise woman of the Urshalaku camp is like, okay, so if you're really the prophesized Nerevarine, let's see if you can wear his ring, moon, and star without fucking dying. So we go out and get Nerevar's ring, and the wise woman and Ashkin of the Urshalaku camp are like, oh shit, I guess he is the chosen one after all. Alright, you need to finish the 7 trials first. First, you need to make all the other Ashlander tribes cool with you being Nerevarine. You also need to unite the great houses to name you their Hortator. So we set off and do just that. We are named Nerevarine by all the Ashlander tribes and Hortator of all the great houses. After this, the wise woman of the Urshalaku camp gives you your final orders by telling you to go speak with the demigod VIVEC about out Kagranak's tools to destroy Akulakan's heart and defeat Lord Dagoth-Ur. After speaking with VIVEC, he gives you the Infinity Gauntlet, Wraithguard, which allows you to wield Kagranak's mighty tools of legend, the Hammer of Sunder and the Blade of Keening. We storm Red Mountain, get Kagranak's tools, and make haste to Dagoth-Ur.
Come, Nerevar, friend or traitor, come. Come and look upon the heart and Akulakan. And bring Wraithguard. I have need of it. Come to me through fire and war. I welcome you.
We make our way to Dagoth-Ur's chambers and come face to face with our once old friend.
Welcome, Moon and Star, to this place where destiny is made.
Remember me, motherfucker? How's it going? How's it hanging? Did you miss me, baby?
Well, here we are. A duel for the ages. I wouldn't have it any other way.
What a fool. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. How could you be so naive? There is no escape. No recall or intervention can work in this place. Come, lay down your weapons. It is not too late for my mercy. What are you doing? What are you doing, fool? Stop! This is the end. The bitter, bitter end.
Wow, that was really anticlimactic. Like, really? All you do is run up to the heart and whack it with Sunder and Keening until it drains Dagoth-Ur's power. Come on, man, that's so fucking lazy. I could have designed a better boss than this. What if we use Keening to hit the heart of Lorcan and that depletes Dagoth-Ur's shield? Then we use either Sunder or Keening to attack Dagoth-Ur while he's vulnerable. And every time you meet a damage threshold, that heart regains power and you have to repeat the process until the fight is over. It would still be pathetically easy, but at least it would be an actual boss fight. Oh well, it is what it is. Now, I just want to say I love the main quest in Morrowind. I love the slow build-up it has to fighting one of the coolest and my favorite villain in the Elder Scrolls. Dagoth-Ur is so charming and so evil at the same time. I just want someone to talk to me the way Dagoth-Ur talks to Nerevar. Still, there are some quests in the game that can fuck right off! First of all, one of the worst quests in the game during the Nerevarine quest, where you have to escort this Dunmer slave posing as a highborn Telvanni mage to this Ashlander tribe Ashkin leader so he can satisfy his dark elf boner. This is the longest escort mission in the game, and that's barely the worst of it. No. The worst part is making the slave look rich by going to a town to buy her clothes, and then you go back and learn that you need to get her perfume.
God damn it!
Why not just tell me she needs nice clothes and the fucking perfume all at once instead of making me Benny Hill my ass back to Tel Mora for it? Morrowind may not be perfect, but god damn it, I will not lie to you, I love Morrowind. Morrowind is the best fantasy open world game I've played. It destroys Oblivion and Skyrim in terms of freedom. While Elder Scrolls is not my favorite franchise ever, Morrowind easily makes my top 5 video games. I'm not saying that to sound pretentious either, but Morrowind is actually one of my favorite games. If watching this video entices you to buy and play Morrowind, let me give you some recommendations. So if you're going to play vanilla Morrowind, I recommend you install 2 mods. Don't start crying, they don't ruin the experience. First, install the Morrowind graphics extender. It'll give you increased view distance and better lighting effects as well as updated world mesh and terrain. Another mod is the Morrowind code patch, which is a mod that allows you to patch certain aspects of the game that you don't like, as well as fix a few bugs, like how normally your health and magicka don't regenerate, so you might want to patch that out if that's a problem for you. While I used Open Morrowind for this playthrough, you can too, but I would recommend you just play the base game over OpenMW, because even if OpenMW has a view distance slider, it still doesn't give you distant land. Like if you're in Balmora, you cannot see VIVEC from there because it hasn't loaded in. OpenMW is the superior choice if you want to play a stable version of straight up Morrowind. No fancy graphics and shaders, just good, gritty Morrowind. Or there is another option out there. You can play the Xbox version, which is backwards compatible on the Xbox One and Series X. You'll get a higher frame rate, sure, and load times, but it still stays at a 4:3 aspect ratio, and the game has more tendencies to crash. Or if you have an OG Xbox lying around, just dust it off and play the game on there. There are plenty of fucking ways to play Morrowind. Hell, you can even do it on your cell phone. There are also mods like Oblivion, which converts Morrowind into Oblivion's engine, so it has Oblivion's combat and general gameplay mechanics. But if none of these options sound good, you can always wait for Skywind to come out, but I doubt we'll be hearing anything about that anytime soon. Or maybe Todd can just re-release the fucking game for modern consoles with updated graphics and bug fixes. Come on, Todd! Why don't you port the fucking game and give us Morrowind remastered already? Come on, Todd! You piece of human shit! Oh yeah, a few parting words that YouTubers always have to give. This video was my longest video ever made, and if you made it all the way through, thank you so much, even if you were just listening and not watching. I still appreciate that you came here and listened to my bullshit. But if you decide to watch the video, double thanks to you, because this video took a lot of work to edit and a lot of proofreading, and other things like mental sanity. I love doing YouTube, I love this hobby, and hopefully one day I'll be able to use the skills I've acquired doing this to land a proper job or do YouTube as a job. But all of this is only possible because of you guys, so if you haven't already, like, subscribe, share the video, and click that bell for notifications in case you haven't already. That's all for today. Bye-bye now.
Come and look upon the heart, upon the heart. Oh, lay down your weapons. It is not too late for my mercy. Oh, oh, come and look upon the heart, upon the heart. Oh, 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 I'm a god. How can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence.